Isles House, Darche side of the moon. Before we get into the latest New York Islanders GM hiring, some housekeeping notes. First, the audio quality. I know I forgot my microphone setup when I went to the cottage. I've gotten enough shit about it. Follow us on Twitter at Isles House. Follow all of our producers. Follow me and Rocco. Follow Jack, who's not with us tonight. Subscribe to the Patreon if you want extra content every single week. If you want access to the podcast Discord, if you want access to the NHL Insider channel, check it out. Go to Patreon, search Isles House. And for this very special episode, we're joined by Mike Carver, host of Feral Coast to Coast on Sports Grid, Carver and Lisi on Sports Grid. You can follow him on Twitter at CarverHigh_. Mike, it's been a while. How are you?
Ethan, boys, what's happening? Always good to come back and talk some Islander hockey. Don't get to as much as I used to, that's for sure, but doesn't mean that I'm not knowing what's going on or keeping interested in what's happening, that's for sure.
Well, we'll get into it. And I mean, you and I go way back. I feel like I had you. I definitely had Compton on Obstructive Views. I'm pretty sure I had you on Obstructive Views, and I remember coming to yours and Brian's live show at Offside Tavern back in the day, and that thing was fucking packed.
That was some night, and I do remember seeing you there.
Yeah.
And that was really me and B Comp maybe did two or three of those. That was the first one. And I couldn't believe it, how packed out the place got. And it was wall to wall in that little back room in the original Offside Tavern. And we had a hell of a night, man. Yeah, I remember what was the night of who got traded that night? Jesus, the Islanders made some shit trade. Who
as
was it?
as they do. Although I will say, the first thing you said was that was some night, and I've said that about many nights at the old Offside Tavern. Some of which I remember, some of which I don't. But it was
Miss
the old
that
stomping
place.
grounds.
Miss that place.
We do. All right, so let's get into the big news. Matthew Darche hired as, I believe, the seventh general manager of the New York Islanders. News broke today, Friday news dump before Memorial Day weekend. The opinions are all over the place. I feel obligated to toss this to Rocco, who admittedly may have the more level-headed opinion on the hiring first, although I'm happy to, do a little back and forth and we can sort of break down everything that we heard going into the official signing. Rocco, how do you want to handle this?
Well, first off, I want to say thank you so much to Carver for coming in because I knew I was going to have my hands full with Ethan tonight. A lot of emotions around this hire, a lot of them. Yes,
Well,
I'm going to be more level headed than him as usual. So, listen, I said it on Twitter. This wouldn't have been my first choice. I got to be completely honest. Probably wouldn't have been my second. Now that he is the choice, I like to always sort of have a positive take on it. He comes from a team that was very successful. Now, say what you want. He's not Brisebois. He was his right hand man. We have to hope that this man learned a bunch because that's a Tampa Bay Lightning franchise that has done a lot of good things. And I know many people like to point to the trades they made, whether it be Tanner Jeannot, sending Sergachev out, whatever it may be. But you got to understand how much good came with all that as well. One thing specifically I want to point out about the tenure while he was in Tampa Bay is the Stamkos situation. It's not easy letting a player like that walk. And after year one, it looks like the right move. And that's the type of move I think the Islanders are going to have to make a couple of times, maybe even this offseason. So I get the doubters because the lack of experience, the trades he was involved with helping Brisebois, but I like the fresh set of eyes. I like that he probably won't be afraid to hurt guys' feelings because it's something we need. The country club is done. It's over. It's Darche's show. And I'm just trying to be positive about it because we were begging for change and we got change. So I'm not going to be one to beg for something and then complain when it happens. So wait and see approach with Darche, but happy to have him here at this point.
Mike, what about you?
I could take a few of the things that Rocco said there, and I do agree with it. Was it? It's hard for me to say was it my first choice because honestly, guys, I don't know if I had a first choice. To be fair, I think that I was gonna find a way to be excited about just about anybody who wasn't Lou. And I'm sure that you guys have talked about this enough already. It's not that I think that Lou Lamoriello did an awful job as running the Islanders. I think he obviously turned the Islanders around when he came here, took them out of a place that they needed to get out of, changed the culture, changed the organization. But it was over. I mean, it was time to move on and go to somebody else. So I probably would have been able to make good excuses about anybody. I really didn't want a retread, as I said earlier on Twitter, like recycled bottled water. Like I don't like. I would rather take a fresh guy that's never had a chance to do this before. I don't think any of us are going to know how that's going to go, but I would rather take a fresh guy and let him try and do it. Coming from a winning organization, he's not Brisebois. He didn't make all the big moves, but at least he's there and he knows and give him a crack as opposed to, Bergevin or something like that. Like that, I probably would have been like, whatever, maybe he'll do all right. But I could see where something like this maybe gives you a little bit more excitement and makes you like have a little bit of hope. And what's the other word on this guy that like he was their draft guru and he was really good with, finding the prospects and well, you got the number one pick in the draft. So that's probably the right guy to have in a situation like that too.
All right, I guess I'm up. Um, this is going to
You might
be.
sway me, Ethan. You might sway. I
I
might
might.
listen to you and go,
Don't
you know
don't
what? Ethan's right.
don't
There's
let
no
him. Don't
chance.
let him, Mike.
Hammer
Do
this
not
guy.
let
I'm.
him.
I'm.
No
Let's,
chance.
Hammer
okay.
this guy.
Now this is like it's a situation where, like, Mike, I'm sure you're well aware, and you're a very media oriented guy. It's like when you're talking about a lawsuit or someone who's caught up in legal trouble, where you have to say allegedly before everything. Oh, he allegedly did this, allegedly, allegedly, allegedly.
Right.
My version of this is going to be I hope Matthew Darche succeeds. I hope he is the general manager for 40 years. The issue that I have with this hiring is that I don't even think he was the Islanders' third choice. I
Mm.
think he might have been the fourth or the fifth choice. Now, Rocco, cut me off and interrupt me at any point if
I'm
anything
ready.
that you know of anything that I'm about to say as being untrue
Okay.
throughout the process. And for
Yes.
those listening, if you wanted this insight, shameless plug, subscribe to the Patreon, insider tier, join the Discord. The New York Islanders, when they let Lou go, the mindset was we want like a Lou 2.0. We want an experienced hockey man. We want someone who can run this organization top down so that we don't have to pay attention and we don't have to run things because, as we well know, Ledecky and Malkin are not hockey guys. And yes, bringing John Collins into the fold changes that a little bit. A guy who's been all over the NHL, been involved in a ton of different stuff. So, okay, they have a little bit of experience there. We know that they wanted Ken Holland first as their first choice, someone to come in, be Poho, be GM. Ken Holland used them as leverage. He used them as leverage to try to open up a job opportunity that didn't exist, that was later filled by Eric Stahl, I believe,
In
Yes. In
Buffalo.
okay,
Buffalo.
Yep.
Yeah.
as an assistant. That job never opened up. And while the Islanders offer was still sitting there and they wanted Ken Holland, the LA job opens up. He goes there. Factual, Rocco?
Factual, but just for context,
Oh,
he is a
brother.
BC guy, and so he was going to be. He
Okay, but
preferred
that's
the
it.
West Coast the whole time.
Oh,
So
that's
it was
fine. But it's
always
but
if
it's
there was a West
irrelevant.
Coast option, he was not choosing the
But
Islanders.
okay, but it's irrelevant because the Islanders wanted him.
They
They wanted
wanted
a guy
him,
of they
but if
wanted a
all
guy of
things
his
were
stature,
even, he
and
was
he was
going
their
west.
okay, fine. But he was their first choice. He was that kind
No,
of
he was
that
their first choice,
that
along
po
with maybe the
that
next guy you're going to say. But
the Poho GM
yes,
archetype, handle everything,
yes,
brings his shitty son
he
with
was
him to
certainly who they wanted. Absolutely,
fuck up Bridgeport. Okay,
yeah.
got it. First choice.
You
Number two.
believe how bad Bridgeport has been
Oh
for
my
so
God,
long? Like,
Disgusting.
it's
this is
so
a
bad.
sidebar here right now.
Yeah.
Can you believe how bad? Like, when was the last time they made the playoffs?
You
I don't
you
know.
have
Bridgeport.
to
I mean,
try to be as bad
Like,
as they were this season.
I remember them playing a playoff game at the Nassau Coliseum once against Scranton Wilkes-Barre or something, and I mean, it must have been 15 years ago. I feel like that's the last time they made the play. They are awful.
awful.
Bridgeport. It'd be bad forever. Sorry, Ethan.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. I went to I think one Bridgeport Sound Tiger game when I was a kid, and just an idea of how sparse the crowd was then is, I mean, now it's even worse. My
Yeah.
buddy and I and our dads got selected to go to like do like one of those intermission things on the ice where they push you
You were
and
the only ones there.
exactly
You
they
were the
push
only
you
one
on the
there.
garbage they push you on the garbage can lid and like whoever gets closest to center ice or something wins. My dad had a horrible push, but that's neither here nor there. All right, back to the GM search.
Right.
Okay, so they strike out on Ken Holland. Again, the kind of guy that you want to run everything top down. Their next choice was they tried to pry Gorton from Montreal multiple times. And
Yep.
Montreal said, fuck off. He's not leaving. We're going to take care of him. All right. Gordon, another guy, previous GM experience, executive type experience, run everything top down. Correct, Rocco?
Correct. And that
Okay.
was, for me, that was my number one guy. That's who I
There you go.
absolutely wanted.
Same.
All right. So we're already through two
I,
options.
I like how Rocco's got to fact check you through the whole thing too.
Well, again, I just
This is
want-
most
he's gotta
episodes,
fact
Mike.
check you.
Well, listen, all right. Okay. I don't want people who are not subscribed to the page. I don't want people thinking I'm talking out of my ass here. All right. So just again, I want to.
I hope that people wouldn't think that anyway.
Well,
Why would they think that you were talking out of your ass? I
You'd
can't
be
believe people
you'd
would
be
think
surprised. It's unbelievable.
that. All right.
All right. So next down on the list, Mark Bergevin. Okay, a guy who he himself thought for quite some time was the front runner for the job. Now, I think there's some mixed reports out there on what happened. The latest that I heard was that he was sort of in that round of Darche, Yarmo, Bergevin. All right, Yarmo, another guy who would come in, he'd, you know, outfit the operation with all of his Finnish mafia, and you sort of forget about it. But I think they spoke maybe once, was not really a fit. Bergevin, Darche. Now, to Darche's credit, and I was told this a few times, the guy was desperate for a job. I think he interviewed very well. And what I was told as of today is that the Islanders, there were rumors out there about this Fakakta co-GM situation. I don't think that was 100% true, but I do believe that the New York Islanders wound up liking Matthew Darche so much that despite having Bergevin as their pick for GM, they wanted Bergevin to hire Darche. That is what I was told as of today. Bergevin, who was strung along through 3 very long weeks of interviews, got fed up. To his total credit, right? If you're coming in as a second-time GM, someone of his age, who probably acknowledges is not going to have another shot at this, wants to bring in his guys and outfit the staff as he sees fit, is not going to want to take an opportunity where ownership is already pushing guys like Darche on him to work together in some collaborative way. He's going to want his guys. Good word, he got fed up and walked away from the negotiations. So just starting top down, and I'm talking strictly process here. You have a guy like Lou who is running the entire operation for you. You go into the search wanting something like that and strike out on first one being Hollins, second one being Gorton, third one being Bergevin. All right. And then at the last second, as Toronto's eliminated, you enter negotiations with Brendan Shanahan. Now, if you have the utmost confidence in Matthew Darche to run everything like you want at this level and at this position, why are you negotiating with Brendan Shanahan to come in and be your president of hockey operations? All right. So this is where my biggest issue lies, is with the process. And the process. It has been my biggest issue with the New York Giants for the last decade, is that the process has been bad. I just don't think that you can look at this hiring process objectively and say that it was good. Knowing what the Islanders wanted going into things, and yes, I'm sure Darche interviewed very well. He probably, his stock rose throughout the process, no doubt. However, we're talking about a guy who has struck out 3 previous times in job interviews. He struck out in Montreal, losing that job to Kent Hughes. He struck out with the Blackhawks, losing that job to Davidson, and he struck out with the Vancouver Canucks and lost out on that job to Patrick Alvin. All right. So a guy who's interviewed throughout the league for the GM position and struck out. And for a team that is entering an offseason as pivotal as the New York Islanders, there are RFA contracts that need to be negotiated. There are UFAs whose contracts we don't even know are signed, unsigned, the Kyle Palmieri situation. We have veterans like Anders Lee who are entering the final year of their contracts. You have numerous albatross contracts on the roster, mostly on the defensive side, that ideally need to get moved out. You have the first overall pick and probably a boatload of cap space with two premier free agents coming to market that could immediately elevate the profile of your team going into next year in what's a weak metropolitan division. Now, all of those things coming together, and that doesn't include how dogshit Bridgeport is and how the new GM has to come in and pick his own scouting staff. Eventually, it's not going to be, right now. All of this for the New York Islanders ownership to come out and hire a guy who's never done this before. I hope he does well. I hope he crushes it. Just knowing that this wasn't their plan and how much this guy has to do, and we don't really have a great idea of every single thing that he handled in Tampa. I believe the number one thing people say about him is that he's excellent managing the cap, which I'm sorry, when you're managing a team in a non-income tax state and just stick Nikita Kucherov on long-term injured reserve every year, the job becomes significantly easier. I am just skeptical. And it seems like it's a sin to say that. And the primary thing that people will counter me with is, oh, well, he's not 60 years old and he's not a retread. Like, okay, like I get it. You want the fresh thing, you want the new thing, and that fresh new thing could very well come in here and hit a grand slam out of the park. But I am entering this skeptical, and hopefully my optimism grows as the summer goes on. But I think I've laid out a very fair argument for my skepticism, and I'm curious what you guys have to say.
Mike, you want to touch on it?
I don't think you're nuts about some of the things
that makes
saying.
one person of
Okay.
ever.
Now, look, I don't think you're completely crazy here. I agree with you on a couple things that you said. Number one, I agree that Malkin, and let's just call it Malkin because let's be fair here, Ledecky doesn't have any say.
The money man.
Malkin is the one who decides what goes on, and I'm sure that this Collins now has more say than Ledecky has. Malkin doesn't want to deal with the day-to-day operations of the New York Islanders.
Correct.
He wants to go live in his mansion in Europe and he'll come out, a big event, he'll come over and shake hands and kiss babies, and he wants the team to be good. He wants people coming to his arena. That's all that he wants to do. He doesn't want to be called, from some new GM, hey, is it all right if I go and do this? Like, he doesn't want any of that. So I can understand that point completely. There's some guys that I probably would have been all right with here if they would have taken. And I think you're right. He probably was the third or fourth choice down the list. But it's a lot of uncertainty. It's very boom or bust, right?
Very much.
Like there's a super high ceiling with this. And there's also, because he's never done it before, there is that chance that this guy's got no clue what he's doing. And he's got a lot of potential, cap space, first overall pick, contracts the year. He could F a lot of that up because he hasn't really done this stuff before. So that's where wanting the experienced guy at first, I completely agree with you that somebody like Malkin would want that and not have to deal with some new guy potentially screwing all that up.
And I'll add just two more things. I mean, one thing which I already said, which was, again, it's the trust issue. I don't think you get that far down the interview process, the 11th hour of the interview process with Matthew Darche, and simultaneously try to pay Brendan Shanahan $6 million a year to be your president of hockey operations if you have full trust in this guy. And I think in the ideal world, I would have been thrilled with the situation if Brendan Shanahan came in overseeing Matthew Darche as a first-time GM, I'd be much less skeptical. It's just I don't understand how you can look at it and say, yeah, no, this guy's great. They've got full trust in him when as of like a day or when this comes out 2 days ago, they were still negotiating trying to get Brendan Shanahan here. And to me, it's like, all right, that's fine. Do what you want, but I just have a hard time
Did you
believing
want
that it was your
Brendan
first.
Shanahan?
I
Did
would
you
have
want Brendan?
loved Brendan Shanahan.
Because
Loved.
I think one of the real cookie cutter things that I've seen from the social media brethren of Islander fans is that, well, look what he did in Toronto. Well, I mean, to be fair, he didn't put skates on and play. What he did in Toronto is that like he acquired like some pretty good talent,
Yeah.
and
Did a
they were
tremendous job.
they
Tremendous job.
and they were completely gutless and couldn't win in the playoffs. Like
I mean,
that's kind of what he did.
and they
Like
took this Panthers team 7, like the reigning Stanley Cup champions, who are
Yeah.
arguably better this year. Like, I'm sorry, they got a shitty draw, but the guy drafted Marner, drafted Matthews, drafted Nyes, drafted did I say Nylander already?
Nylander.
no,
Nylander,
yeah,
like, I mean, he drafted a great team. He lured like a marquee free agent back to Toronto. Like the guy did a great job. He put together a team that made the playoffs, I think 9 straight years under his tenure, multiple 100-point teams. And okay, I get it. Like if you get sick of losing in the playoffs every year, but guy's got to show up. He can't, he can't.
I wouldn't have had a problem if it was
No.
Brendan Shanahan.
No, me
I
neither.
wouldn't have had a problem.
I would have liked Shanny too, but just I agree with Ethan. I didn't love the process either, but just to defend it a little bit, like I said with Holland, wanted West Coast. So it's one of those things like if he doesn't want to be here, why do we want him? And I know that's sort of become the knock on Darche. He's so desperate for this job, whatever else. I don't think it's a bad thing. He wanted it so badly per se. And the next guy on the list, you put Gorton to shout out the Isle Seat podcast, our white whale, if you will. He, if they don't let you in the waters, you're never going to get the whale. So Montreal didn't let it happen.
I get it.
But realistically, if we're looking at this realistically, it was always going to come down to Bergevin versus Darche.
But that's, but it's painful because you and I spoke
painful.
about this because this was
it's not the best options.
And all the insiders, every single like media outlet was saying what a desirable job this was. And that was before they landed first overall. Gorgeous practice facility, brand new arena, ownership that's willing to spend to the cap every year. Now you add first overall pick into the mix and you have like full autonomy to do what you want because ownership doesn't want to be involved. Like this was supposed to be the marquee job, and not just the marquee job. There weren't any other jobs until LA opened up. Like the Islanders, in theory, were supposed to have their pick of the litter, and it took them 30 days to finally nail down their fourth option. And to me, that bothers me.
No, I get it, but I think part of the reason it took so long is they're trying for guys that they're either not allowed to speak to or someone they have to wait on, like a Shanahan. And then you get to the table with Shanahan. And whether it's about money, this, that, whatever else, it doesn't work. You got to go with Darche. Now, as far as the Darche-Bergevin dynamic of them working together, my assumption and what I think happened is they probably when Darche got announced, it was vice president of operations and GM, correct?
It was executive
vice president
and GM.
I think the executive vice president would have been Bergevin's role, and he would just be the GM. So it was never co-GMs.
Right.
It would have been Bergevin with the experience on top of Darche.
I agree.
They would have worked together. That's what it would have been.
I believe that to be
true. Comfortable with either as Poho.
I believe that to be true.
Exactly. So they were never comfortable with either in that role, but they wanted both. So
I'll say this: they could have hired Matthew Darche 5 minutes after
they could have.
Let Lou go.
Once was Tampa eliminated already?
I don't know, but I'm being
soon after. Yes,
I'm being hyperbolic.
After.
The second he was available, they could have offered him the job, and he would have accepted it,
and that would have been done,
and that would have been
got the ball rolling. I agree, but they wanted to shoot their shot with some other guys, and as we said, the Gortons, the Holland, they just when you take a step back and look at it, they weren't happening. So I get your frustration with the process, but I think sometimes in regards to that process, you do have to look at it, take a step back and look, and realize that it was always basically going to be Bergevin and Darche. And I get what you're saying with the wide net, and it was such a desirable job, but like, who was left on the table that they didn't try for that you would have wanted realistically?
Well, that's why they paid John Collins the big bucks because I
No,
know
yeah,
that. I mean, listen, they were back channeling Shanahan 100%. They were back
you have
channeling
to.
Shanahan.
You have to.
These are conversations that are ongoing, whether you want to admit to the tampering or not, and you have to have an idea of whether or not these guys are willing to come. And if they didn't, then that's on them. And again, that goes back to the poor process.
Well, Ethan, how does this change if the Leafs lost in the first round and they could have spoken to Shanahan officially, like 10 days before they actually did?
It's tough to say. I mean, with Shanahan, I think the interest was there. I think they got as far as talking money. And this is a guy that has all the money in the world already and doesn't need any more money. And so why is he going to rush into a situation?
If they win that game on Sunday night, is he even available? No.
I actually think
No.
so.
And I don't even mean just obviously they wouldn't be able to talk to him yet because they'd still be playing right now. But even when they would eventually get eliminated, is he going to be available?
I think he would have. I think just the general feeling from Toronto, and I mean, I think this might. Let's just take a little break from the Darche talk, and I just want to take a little celebratory victory lap because I believe that this era of Toronto being consistently good is over now that MLSE is involved because they're cutting costs. They're like Shanahan's role is just no more. It's not even like they
they're
wanted
not
to bring him
feeling it.
back or not. Right. So
Yeah, they're not feeling it.
I think this is the beginning of the end for them.
Well,
I
and
really do.
they're gonna lose Marner.
Right,
So they're losing
100%.
Marner.
Yes.
Are they gonna bring John back on pennies? With a discounted rate. I mean, probably because he likes his pool so much and his
His
house
pajamas,
there and all
yeah.
that. So I mean, if I were him, I would go and find myself a nice spot in Colorado, Dallas, somewhere I can get my name on a cup before my career ends. That's what I would do if I was him. But he'll probably go back to Toronto, some glory. But I'm not. I
Yeah,
came
because
here,
he's
I'm not leaving.
exactly.
He'll retire his number. He'll get the whole
Yeah,
treatment.
He's
sure.
an emotionless robot. The guy doesn't
Yeah.
give a shit about winning.
No.
Anyway, all right. So back to the Islanders.
Gotta bash Toronto for 90 seconds. Guys,
Yeah.
it's all right. We can
Yeah.
do it.
It's like the music dance experience. It's the
Yeah.
shit on Toronto experience.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, Rocco, is there a direction you wanted to take this? Because there's one other thing I wanted to
Oh, go.
sort of.
Whatever's on your mind, go.
All right. So it seems like with the Darche discourse on X, the Everything app, that you can either be. People seem to be like cherry picking, right? Like he was there for this, he was there for that. No one really seems to know what he was in charge of, right? Like that seems to be the general vibe. So why don't we just judge his tenure by everything, right? Like the good and the bad. Is that fair or unfair? Because no one seems to have an idea of what this guy had his hands in outside of cap management.
I hate to say this to you, Ethan, because you're not going to like it, but we have to have the wait and see approach because he's the AGM. So he might have not liked something, and Brisebois being the superior says, "No, we're doing it." Like whether it's the Janot trade, the Ferguson trade, we don't.
No,
we really don't know.
I think that's fine. I think that's probably the most objective way to look at it. I think the other way would be judge him on the whole, right? Like,
So how do you feel on the whole? If you're judging him by the whole, how do you feel?
well, that's the thing. I think if you were to like do a pros and cons chart, there are some pros. I think the cons probably are like if I were to do this and feel free to add to this anyone in here, right? Like the cons would be like he wasn't there for like their 111 and 120 point season. He wasn't there when they drafted their core. He wasn't there when they drafted Hedman, Stamkos, Kucherov, Point. Am I missing anyone else?
He got there in
Cirelli.
19, right?
Cirelli.
So
Yeah,
19
19.
when he got there.
Yeah.
So
But mind you, with the draft, they don't have high picks at that point. There's a lot of factors.
Okay, I get it. I'm not saying I'm not knocking the draft picks
No,
when he was
wasn't
there.
a part of the
I'm
core.
just right.
But
So he
neither was Brisebois. Wasn't really either.
No.
It was Stevie Y.
Yeah.
okay. So sucks that he couldn't
None
replicate
of
that
them get
in
credit.
Detroit. Not
None
okay.
of them
So
get credit.
fine. So, none of them get credit, but Darche doesn't get credit. So he wasn't there for any of those drafts. Their number one prospect. Again, we don't know if this was just between Isaac Howard and Brisebois or who else, but their number one prospect who put up 52 points in 37 college games is refusing to sign with them. And the Tanner Jeannot trade, getting rid of Sergachev, I think the positives would be knowing when to step off of Stamkos, which I think that's a huge positive as someone who's been railing on Lou for never selling the top on any player ever. He did a good job with Nelson, but like a guy like Anders Lee, prime candidate to move off of, right? All right, so that's a positive. Moving off of Stamkos and getting Gensel in there instead. Um, I knowing how to utilize the cap to your advantage, I guess. We'll see which star player he wants to fake an injury this year to go on long-term injured reserve for the cap space. Um, what are the other pros of his yeah, they won the Stanley Cup 100%, but like in terms of like micro.
That's a pretty big pro.
No,
Ethan.
I get it, but like in terms of micro moves,
That's like
right?
the pro of all pros is winning.
Okay, but they won those cups because of the core that was in place before his tenure.
Absolutely, but you got to keep in mind the little moves they do in making that, right? Because
all right, that's what I'm asking for.
yeah, this is what I'm going to tell
pros.
you. The depth,
all right.
the depth. When you look at the teams that win, they have the depth. The Floridas, the Tampa Bays, and mind you, this may be a team that if you have the old school alignment of 1 versus 8, might still be in right now, Tampa Bay.
Sure.
They ran into Florida in the first round.
So I mean, who are their depth guys? Killorn, Gaudreau?
Well, they made a trade. They went and got like Yanni Gord back. They
Gord,
had Cirelli,
is what I'm thinking.
Cirelli, who killed us. Like those. I know that wasn't him, but there's a lot of guys that they work with depth wise. I'd have to look at their roster. I don't know off the top of my head, but there's definitely guys they've added in. Who did they get recently that was like a semi big trade? Hagel, that's the one I forgot. The Hagel trade was excellent. Hagel's very good.
And the extension. The extension was good too.
Yeah. On a pretty affordable deal, I believe, Greeny, correct?
But again, how much is it what sucks about it, and like Rocco said, like it's just when you're the assistant general manager, how much are you actually involved in what's going on here? How much of those moves
100%.
Brisebois, and Brisebois like, hey, yo, Darche, go get me a coffee, bro. Like, come back and let me know what happened. Like, honestly, like, you don't know. Nobody's in that room knowing. Like, and I'm sure there's some, like, super insiders out there who are like, oh, no, Darche was in the room for all of this. He was his right-hand man. Yeah, and he might not have been. Brisebois might have been like, go watch the AHL team and see who we can get rid of. I'll deal with the real stuff. You have no idea with these assistant GMs what they've actually done.
Look at the Islanders, Carver. Look at the Islanders.
Oh, exactly.
Their assistant GM is Chris Lamoriello, who
it's just somebody's not even there. So you have no clue what they do.
And one thing I'll say though, just as like a counter argument for not like this identical situation, right? But we're talking about not understanding necessarily what specific assistant GMs do. But a guy that we were looking at early on in the process as potentially coming over, Rocco, was Ryan Hardy. And our guy KB in the Discord had a fucking essay, a laundry list of everything this guy's done from the USHL all the way up to the AHL, and like his scouting prowess and how good he is at developing talent and this, that, and the other thing. And I feel like I haven't seen anything of the sort for Matthew Darche.
No, it's fair. And it's one thing I did like upon listening to one of his interviews is how much he cares about the mentality of the team. Like he was talking about the Yanni Gord trade and how much they valued that and how they would value it more than other teams because of a guy like Gord, what he said, the way he practices. Like you want guys that practice like that and are guys that care so much, high energy. That's the sort of players the Islanders need. And I don't think people realize anymore. Like the Cizicases, Matt Martins, and Clutterbucks of the world, they're either done or gone. So you need players like that. And I think he can be the type of guy that identifies them and adds them and have the type of moves that in the moment, we don't think it's this big, great move, but a year or two down the road, it is great. And I think the scary part, as you, me, and Carver all basically said, with the AGM, you really don't know. So is he going to be this great guy? Like I compare it to like a home run swing on a draft pick. The ceiling super high, but the floor is also very low. He might be the Lane Lambert to Brisebois Trotz, or he might be this great guy that 3 years from now we're saying we can't believe we got. So there's a low floor and a high ceiling, and we're just going to have to wait and find out to see where we are.
100%. Again, it's just I'm skeptical and I'm scared because we have a bunch of guys who are like the core of the team entering their prime, and you're taking a shot on a relatively unknown product who just wowed you in some job interviews. So I'm nervous. That's all I'm going to say.
Fair to
I'm
be nervous, but it's also fair to be excited.
Sure. Listen, this guy comes in, he gets rid of Ryan Pulock, and he trades for Marner's rights. I'm scratching
First
out
few are big,
my,
right?
my,
The
my
first
kid,
few
my
moves
kid's
are
name
big.
on the birth certificate, and I'm writing Matthew.
Well,
And I've seen you guys out and about this. You think that Marner's coming to the Islanders. You think that there's a chance that Marner's coming to the
part
Islanders.
of it's a little
I think
joking
it's-
around.
I know there's a lot of joking.
No. There's no
Get
joking.
the 2 slices and the Coke. I've said there's a lot.
Oh, you like that, huh?
There's no joking. There's no joking.
Bagel ball. I saw all this stuff going on. So I
Well,
know
It's
there's
not
some
a joke. It's
element
not a
to
joke.
this,
If you have the
obviously.
ability to recruit, you got to do it.
Well, you certainly do. But do you seriously think that Marner's going to come here?
I think there's a
100.
chance.
If
I don't.
he leaves Toronto, you cannot tell me that the New York Islanders, if they were to give him the money he wants, are not the number one destination for him.
You see, I don't know enough. It's been hard because that entire team is, like I said before, they've been so gutless in the playoffs every single year. I
I'll
don't
tell
know,
you what, though.
I don't
I'll
know
tell you what,
how
though,
to
Mike.
look at him. Like, let's say the Islanders, and Liz, we've been down this road before. Let's say the Islanders offer him 11-7 per year, 12 per year. You want to go? Let's say they offer him 12.
I think more, but
I'll go more.
yeah.
I'm just throwing you.
Okay.
Let's say
Yes.
let's say they're
Let's
on
say
the
12.
cheap side and
Let's
they
12.
offer
12.
12.
Sure.
And Utah, the dopey mammoth or whatever they're going to call themselves out there, come in and offer
The
him
Marner Mammoths.
13. Is he a guy who's going to say, all right, it might be 12, but it's a better situation? Or is he a guy who's just going to be like, every last dollar, baby, get me to ski slopes. Let's go. I'm out of here. Like what? I don't know enough Marner to think about what he would be in that
I think
spot.
Matt Martin calls him up and says, "Have you seen the school rankings?"
I also think
The schools are always
what's the
great.
biggest knock when people talk about Marner, whether it's I don't believe it to be as true as people make it sound.
No, he's almost a point per game playoff
What's
player.
the biggest knock on Marner?
I think the biggest knock, and Ethan just said it, if you actually go and look, he's like a point per game player in the playoffs. I think the biggest knock on him for me is he doesn't get it done in the playoffs. But then you
So-
go and you look at it as a point per game player.
So if you're Mitch Marner and you're a competitor and you're a pro athlete, wouldn't you want to go somewhere that you know you're going to have a lot of shots at the playoffs or close to the playoffs and prove everyone wrong? So I think if you, from the Islanders' perspective, if you could convince this guy, listen, we're not there, but we're not far. And with you, we're a hell of a lot closer. And with the number 1 overall pick coming in, we're much closer. And when we move more money out, we're closer. This is an East Coast guy. Toronto's not so far from here.
Quick flight.
Quick flight. Places that are going to offer him the absolute bag that might outbid the Islanders. Probably not ideal places to live if we're calling it as it is, right? Like Utah for a guy that's from Canada. Does that sound ideal?
I don't know. They love that. They love that place out there. I mean,
Maybe,
they get
listen.
you off the plane out there, and you smell the air. You basically get trapped there. Nobody
Listen,
ever
maybe
wants
they
to
could
leave.
convince him, but I think he's an East Coast guy. He just had a kid. You want to be by people you know. You got Matt Martin.
Schools.
I saw a line today.
Schools.
Chicago's not looking to pay him, so that's one team that can offer.
Chicago.
Chicago's not going to pay him apparently. So, and that's the thing too with Marner. As good as he is, and I feel he's the type of player that all 32 teams should be making a call. There are going to be teams that just say, nah, just because the stigma. I think.
That would
Let
be
me. I'll,
stupid.
I'll lay it. Okay. Yes, it is shtick, Carver. It is shtick, but okay. Like this is how
You think there's a chance?
I think this is an excellent chance. This is how my brain works. The Pete Davidson.
I hope you're right.
The Pete Davidson stand-up joke about Hurricane Katrina, or not Katrina, Hurricane Sandy hitting Staten Island, and he goes, "Oh, he's from Staten Island. Oh, I hope the next hurricane, Staten Island, just falls into the ocean." It's a joke, but it's a serious joke. This is a shtick, but it's a serious shtick. All right. I think Rocco just laid out a really good high level argument for like, come here, you're the missing piece, we can pay you. I think there's people laugh at it. The Islanders treat their alumni like royalty.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think now that Matt Martin is no longer playing, he is a Long Island staple. He's a guy who was here, drafted here, went to Toronto, came back, so he understands the difference in both cultures. As I understand it, Mitch Marner's wife and Sydney Martin are very, very close. You have a new kid, Long Island being a genuinely great place to live and raise a family, especially if you got the big bucks. And you just get to come to an organization that has legitimately, I don't even want to say three and a half. It's more like three and a quarter total beat writers for the team. It is like night and day, the pressure and the spotlight of Toronto versus New York. And you come here where there's familiarity. You know, Lou's still sort of hanging around. He's not going to have any say, but you have the familiarity with Lou. The team was at least seriously talking to Brendan Shanahan. Matt Martin is still here. I just don't see. I'm sure other destinations will come up, and maybe he pulls a Gaudreau where he's just like, "Fuck it, I'm going to Columbus and I'm going to disappear from the spotlight forever." But for him, like, find me a better place where there's a lack of spotlight and pressure. He can play with top level players with Horvat, Barzell. If they re-sign Dobson, you've already got some goaltending in place. You got a restocked pipeline of prospects. Like, it really does feel like all the pieces are sort of coming together where the Islanders call up Toronto and say, "Listen, your boy's not re-signing. You can lose him for nothing, or give me his rights and let us negotiate for that eighth year." And I think it's genuinely possible.
Look, I don't disagree that you could sell him on the missing piece angles of it, and I also agree that you could tell him and other guys on that team they have had enough of the dealing with that media in Toronto. They
I
and
mean, not even the media, the fan base too. There were
the fan base as
stories
well.
that they were doxing his home address.
And look, I believe no matter where he goes next, whether it's Long Island or somewhere else, he is going to play. I think he's gonna jump up 2 levels. I think
100%.
Me
getting
too.
away from that nonsense that he plays in now is going to completely open him up. My problem is this, and I'm a little bit older than you guys, so I've been dealing with this, and this might be old man Islander talk here that people don't like to hear.
You have the general pessimism about you at free
Until
agents.
I see it happen, it's never going to happen, okay? And I know guys have come and they've gotten traded here and they've signed. Horvat signed. Other guys have signed. There has not been a guy straight free, and Andrew Ladd doesn't count, okay? Andrew Ladd doesn't count. Andrew Ladd is not a superstar player. There's been all these guys in the past. Oh, the Islanders are in on this guy. They're in on that guy. Yeah. They never get it done. So until I finally see someone do it, and God, I hope you're right. I'd love to see Mitch Marner playing for the Islanders next year. I think it would be unbelievable. I got to see it happen with my own eyes because I'm not doing it anymore. The last cheese with me was that goon Panarin that went over to the Rangers.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
not doing it again with this guy. I'm
you
not
know
doing
what?
it.
The consequences were dire. He's never winning a Stanley Cup. He made the list and that was
Oh,
it. But
he's never winning.
in the words of New York legend Michael Strahan, 17-14, gentlemen, believe it and it will happen.
Yeah, but
Carver, believe it and it will happen.
that's fine. I'll get in on it. You want to?
Carver's
I'll
like,
get on
no,
the train.
immediately no.
I need to. I got to see it to believe it. I just do. I just there's just too many. Just too many times. And you're right. There's a lot of great qualities that he should be looking at that this place has. But I could Pittsburgh, Utah. I think all these places they could come in and swoop him up.
It's actually crazy. The guy put up 13 points in 13 playoff games, and he's being blamed as opposed to Nylander and Matthews, who's a ghost. I think Tavares had like 2 points or some shit. I don't know. It was crazy.
Matthews, I mean, big games, even in Four Nations, disappears. Four Nations, he looked horrible most of the
He's
game.
another guy. You talk about needing a new home.
Oh,
That
he's
guy,
gone.
He is a complete mental midget up there
He is.
in Toronto. You could see it on his face every time they put a microphone in front of his face. He can't take it. That guy, he wishes that Arizona was still around so that he could go in the witness protection program there
I
when
was
that
gonna say
team was around.
that
He
guy's
would
a
love
future
to be there.
mammoth. That guy's a future
No,
mammoth.
that guy,
King.
he'd put the
L.A.
house right
King.
up on the mountain. He'd go away from everybody. That's a perfect mammoth spot for Austin Matthews.
I think he's a king because he likes, dress up a little bit, whatever else. And when you're a hockey player in LA, you could kind of hide behind LeBron.
Oh, nobody cares about hockey.
Yeah,
no
so
one.
you could go to LA, be the cool guy, and no one and not have the pressure. So it's like a perfect fit for him.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised with the Kings on Mitch either. That's another team I could see going after him. But
Maybe.
what we always discuss with these free agents, though, too, is you're always scared of that hometown team, though, right? So with Mitch, the fact that his hometown team is the one pushing him away feels like all bets are off.
Right.
It's possible. It is possible.
No, because right or wrong,
How do
every
you
time
screw that up? They are so
Not-
stupid up there. They really are.
literally the kid.
Like,
I watch videos, I feel bad for the kid. It's like
Hold on, it's
him in
another
Maple
shit on
Leaf
Toronto
skier.
dance experience.
I know
It's
they deserve
crazy.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
what they deserve it. The fans,
but Rocco, you're
media,
right.
all of them.
Rocco,
Well-
you're right though, because it was Greeny bleep it. You have a few bleeps. You probably don't even have the timestamps.
I got you. I got you.
You're on the ball, Greeny. I love it. Yeah, Tavares going back to Toronto. All the talk about Johnny Gaudreau was about how he wanted to be
Really?
closer to home. Artemi Panarin wanted to go to New York, which for Russians is basically home. There in Miami. The list goes on.
yeah, and
Pretty much
it's-
every American wants to come back to the States. They're fed up of Canada.
And listen, I'm not saying it's a sure thing by any means they're going to land Mitch, but I would be shocked if they're not one of the main bidders, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. I know we got kind of off track from the agenda that we had typed
That
up, but
happened. It happens.
it always
Get
happens.
back on your agenda then.
On the rails. All right. What are we talking about next? Big.
The
I'm
big
gonna ask you
decisions.
something.
All right,
I
go
want to
ahead.
ask you something then, since I haven't heard this guy's name brought up yet, and I'm sure it's on your agenda, but I'm now going to rearrange your agenda.
Go for it.
Does this guy Darche mean that Patrick Waugh is going to be the coach next year?
That is on the agenda.
Is that
You inadvertently got us back
are
on the
we
rails.
good with that? Are we all right with that? Is
Yeah.
everybody
Yes.
happy with that?
Yeah,
I
the
guess
French
I'm all right
connection.
with it.
Yeah, the French Canadians.
That's
They're-
probably why they really hired him. He was the only guy that wanted to keep Waugh.
Him
they
and
didn't want to
Bergevin.
get
Yeah,
rid of
him and
Waugh. So you can
Bergevin.
add that. Bergevin too. Yeah.
Think
he
about it.
liked
If they
that
did
Waugh.
their little cute co-GM thing, it would be the ultimate French connection.
Yeah.
Bergevin, Darche, Waugh.
Wait, Ethan, they reported today that Wah still has 3 years left.
He's really not going anywhere.
Two more, I think.
Really-
I think 2.
It's it is two more this upcoming season and the season after is my understanding.
I think after his interim label or whatever, they brought him in halfway through. He got a 3-year deal.
correct.
Yes, I think that's
Yes.
what it was.
Pagnotta reports a bunch of
There's
bullshit. Never listen
I've
to
seen
Pagnotta.
twos and threes going around. I wasn't sure.
And Pagnotta was like, he's got 4 years left. And what world were the Islanders giving Patrick Waugh a 5-year deal? This guy, whatever.
Two's more palatable. They'd swallow
Yeah.
two. If
Exactly.
it's two left, they would
Luke
swallow.
gave him a 5 for less AAV, maybe.
Yeah. The flat cap jokes. I'm so glad we get to shelf those. All right. So yeah, I think Waz staying. The question is the staff, right? I'll go around the room. I mean, you guys know my feelings. I'm happy to talk about him again, but Rocco.
Every single person but his boy Benoit gone.
Yeah, I
Clean
think
him
so
out.
too. Clean him
Everybody.
out.
Even if
would
you don't want
clean
Benoit,
out
I don't care.
Everybody who works for the organization, I would clean out. That's the coaches. That's the scouts. That's the Bridgeport people. That's the people. And I'm sure that they listen. Some of these people, the people that sell the tickets. I'd get rid of everybody. I'd start over. I'd start the whole thing over. Start from scratch.
Well, the biggest name I think people are curious about, Chris Lamoriello, and what happens to him.
I should bleep that name.
You really should, but at least for now, let's leave it because we actually want people to know.
This
because
can't be as discussed. He can't seriously be kept.
I think what happens with Chris is he walks in the shop and fills out an application for me. I think that's where we're at with Chris.
I think so. He's gonna be making pizzas, but
Maybe register.
dishes. All right. Can I say something crazy?
Sure.
I don't want him back. Right? No one wants him back. Is it crazy? of Darche to just sort of like keep him on for like
Yes.
1 year?
Yes.
You
Yes.
can't keep him.
You can't keep him. You
Okay.
can't keep anyone in Bridgeport. They had the worst record of all time.
Well, listen, they're
Players hate the
they're
coach.
obviously firing Kowalski, right? Like the staff
Who
100%.
hired Kowalski?
Okay, listen, I get it. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not saying that this is a good thing.
This is a waste
be-
of a few seconds. I think
Why
we
do
should
you
move
not a
on.
want
waste
him
of a
to
few
hang
seconds.
around for a year? Why
No,
do
no,
you
no.
want
I
him
don't
to-
want him to hang around for a year. I think listen, I think there are some staff that are much easier to replace right now. As we know, they dragged the process out far too long, longer than they should have, right? We know that there were everything that we've heard, Rocco, is that whatever you think of Bridgeport, it's 10 times worse. All right. They are 1000% changing the coaching staff down there. Like I feel comfortable like that's not even like a source thing. They're doing it. It's happening. They're getting rid of Kowalski. They're going to have a new staff down there. Okay. I think it's like much easier to just like find someone who's willing to coach an AHL squad and fill out a staff and something that can happen relatively quickly, right? I think because he was assistant GM of the Islanders and he managed Bridgeport, I just think that there's maybe like a lot of moving pieces there that Darche is going to want to gain a better understanding of before he fires Lamoriello. It's not a merit thing. I think it's like, all right, walk me through how badly you fucked this thing up, and then like go search for a job. You're done, but like hang around just as like help me understand how badly you fucked this up, right? Like that's the angle that I'm going for
No,
here. I don't
I don't
want
like
it.
it at all.
I don't like it either.
Anyone else with AHL experience, literally doing anything. I mean, Greeny filling out box scores at the Syracuse Crunch game is enough experience for me to replace Chris Lamoriello. Anything, any sort of experience, get him out, clean house. Like, honestly, I think you could question some of the guys at the top level, the assistant coaches, scouts, things like that. The Bridgeport level, I think you completely clean house. Like, not even like he should walk in there and not even talk to anybody. Just Bridgeport's clean. It's done. I don't care. I looked at the record. You're all gone. I don't even think you should have a word with anybody. It's that bad down there.
Okay, and
I wouldn't want anybody who can still tell Lou what's going on in the building around. I just because I feel like we've already seen these reports and people
they're not true.
People taking camera shots of Lou ripping heaters outside the practice facility.
Oh, that was awesome,
I don't
though.
need
That was cool. That was
I don't
cool.
need this guy hanging around and like having Malkin's ear. Like, and it's probably not true, but I don't even want to think that it might be true.
We actually got someone in our
Get him out.
Discord. Someone in our Discord today sent a picture of Lou at a Starbucks.
Get him out. I want him all Lamoriellos out. They're all out. I don't want them anywhere near the organization.
I feel like
thank you for your service. See you later. You're out.
I feel like I need more allegedlys here than I did for my Darche negativity. I do not want this. I just think that there may be, again, because it was such a small operation under Lou, and they didn't renew Lou's contract. Yeah, okay. If Darche comes in and he fires Chris Lamoriello, I'm going to throw a party. Great. I'm just saying, like, maybe there's a world in which he's kept around for just like, all right, show me the ropes here, and like you're gonna be gone, but for at least a year. And I think with Bridgeport there may be like some bigger things at play as well that we're generally unaware of. I'll leave it at that. But let's just a thought.
That was a lot of wasted time. I think we can move on to the next thing.
All right, go ahead, Rocco.
Chop him.
What's next, Greeny?
So I guess we were just going to talk about the remainder offseason outlook, kind of bigger picture for the franchise, how we feel moving forward. I mean, we hit on a lot of things. I think the biggest thing is like, what do you guys think is the first priority for Darche now that he's here?
After the staff, basically, because
after the staff
and the housekeeping. I mean, it's got to be the in-house guys, the RFAs, if you want to keep any of the UFAs, and the draft, right? Those are the first steps. And for me, the first big step is just drafting the right guy, number one overall. Or a big, Ethan shaking his head, but one of the biggest first steps is easily, for me, get up there, say Matthew Schaefer, and go back. And then start with that. What are you shaking your head at, Ethan?
It's something that you said.
Time out.
No timeout. No timeout.
After
no
this
time
Chris
out.
Lamoriello thing
time
is
out.
ridiculous.
No, time in.
I'm going to put you in timeout more than Lou did Chris as a child in a second.
No.
Lou still puts Chris in timeout.
He does. Rocco, we're equals. And this is a line that I think you have said numerous times.
What is it? Go.
The New York Islanders have a Noah Dobson problem.
Yeah, but you don't have to figure that out first.
You don't need to figure it out either. You run to the podium and select Matthew Schaefer. Whether or not you're going to sign Noah Dobson to an 8x9 or an 8x10 or trade the guy is quite a big decision for shaping the cap of your team.
I'm talking
right?
actual timeline-wise, though.
I think that's one of the first things you have to figure out because it shapes.
So you would make this decision before the draft.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. No, it's fair, but you don't have to. Is what I'm trying to say. You could still negotiate, trade him July 1. It wouldn't be that big of a deal versus prior to the draft.
No, but I think you want to have an idea of what the cap space you have going into the
that's fair.
It's going to
No,
be,
it's fair.
especially because, as we know, a lot of these GMs like to wheel and deal at the draft.
Yes,
I think figuring out whether you're going to tie your wagon to Noah Dobson for the next 8 years versus shipping him out is the most important decision pre-free agency. Well, personally,
Mike, I want to ask you because I know how these guys feel on Dobson. How do you feel on Dobson and his next contract?
I wouldn't have a problem if you got something good for him.
There, okay.
I wouldn't. I don't. He's not Nicholas Lidstrom. Okay, he's not. I mean, he is not a. You know, sometimes it feels like he gets talked about, and I think a lot of it is people still have a lot of like PTSD from like Taves getting traded and like all like the people still like. I don't think he's that great. He's a good player. He's a really good player. I don't think he's a absolute have to have 8 years, $10 million. I don't think he's that player. And I think if somebody wants to give you something stupid for him, I think that you need to listen to that. And if nobody wants to do that, then you need to give him the appropriate contract. Not overpay him because he's your best offensive defenseman right now. But I would listen. I
think this is where my Darche optimism kicks in as a guy who allegedly knows the cap and very well. You sort of just draw a hard line with him and say, "This is the max we're willing to give you. We are not negotiating. Take it or request a trade."
Now, Ethan, where would you put that hard line? Because I know where mine would sort of be, and I don't think he would sign it. So
Me neither.
So where are you? I'm like an 8x8. Maybe I'll go a little.
I was gonna say 8x8.
If he starts getting 9, 10, I'm probably just looking at trade.
He can't get $9 or $10 million a year.
So are you at Mike? Are you at 8 as well? Or are you even lower?
Like I think that would be where I would be. And look, I think people are. I don't think this guy sucks. I think I'm being a little bit probably going a little too far here. He's a really good player. I don't think that he's every year, no doubt about it, Norris candidate, all-star. I don't think he's that. I think he's top pair defenseman. Okay, I think he's definitely a solid, no doubt about it, second pair defenseman. But I don't think he's a guy that I'm like, when you're sitting around me, it's like, oh, let's get the Norris candidates out. Oh, top 3, Noah Dobson. I mean, yeah, that's right. I don't think he's that. And I think sometimes people talk about him like he's that. And I think that that's a little too much for me.
I think so. You know what my main problem with Dobson is too? And it goes back to what we said about the Leafs core. It feels like in the bigger games, he sort of shrinks. He's not physical. He's not getting into the corners. So that's what scares me about giving him this big deal is because then you could have this core group of players that make all this money and just doesn't work. I don't hate the player. I like the player. I don't love the player, as Mike said, but it's just like he scares me. That whole situation is probably the scariest thing about the offseason to me.
That's why
I like him. I like him on my team if he's not my, it just doesn't sound good that the next 8 years I'm depending on him to be my number 1 defenseman for the next 8 years. That's what I'm paying him to be. I don't think he's that.
And it's going to be a majority of that too, because Schaefer is only, if they pick Schaefer, he's only 17 years old.
I don't care. He's playing in October. I don't care. I don't want this. Every year I watch these guys go first overall. They're playing in the league that year. I don't care. He's playing in October. I don't want to hear any nonsense. Him playing somewhere else. No, he's an Islander. Opening night, he plays.
He comes to camp, he's going to be skating fucking circles around Ryan Pulock. I mean, it's going to be like a nightmare for everyone else.
You guys aren't open to anybody else right now. You want Schaefer.
I'm a Misa guy as well. I
I
think
watched the clips and listen, you know how I am, Ethan. I
me
am
too.
not like I do not sit around and watch all these guys in the OHL all year. There's
Nope.
just no shot that I got enough problems. I can't go and watch all these prospects. But when you find out that the Islanders have the first overall pick in the draft,
You watched in prospects.
I'll go take a look at some of these clips. I watched this Misa kid and I thought he was like Barzell on steroids.
Yeah.
Like there's something real like that kind of offensive firepower and skill. Like I don't know how you could say you've seen anybody have that on an Islander team. And this takes nothing away from Barzell or Tavares when he was drafted. Like I don't know if he could do anything defensively. He probably can't, but he looks so good in the offensive zone, shooting, passing, making plays. It would be so hard to pass that guy up. But I understand the Schaefer side of it as well.
Yeah.
I get it.
And Carver, to your point, I was like a Misa guy. Like they
Uh,
landed first overall. I'm outside chanting Misa already. I'm like outside UBS with my
it would
bongos
be
and a
hard to
bonfire.
turn that kid away.
But
It'd be hard.
but and we will let our noted prospect guy Rocco take us home here because he's hosted a number of podcasts already with prospect experts and draft experts, and he's been studying way more tape than I have. I watched Schaefer skate, and that's not connecting in my head because the guy skates I, like a forward on steroids. It's like he doesn't skate, he floats on the ice, and
Yeah.
everything he does is so incredibly smooth. But I mean, Rocco, you know more about all these top
Yeah.
guys than we
No,
do.
I like both of those guys, and I could definitely consider it a 1-2 tier where it's Misa and Schaefer. The thing is that when you look at Schaefer and his skill set, obviously Misa has a very high ceiling as well, but like I think the floor for Schaefer is like a very, very talented offensive defenseman with so-so defense. And I think the ceiling is, which I wouldn't be surprised if he reaches either, is Miro Heiskanen. Like that's who he reminds me of when I watch him play. And he's so smooth. He's not Cale Makar. He doesn't skate like he's a horse. Like he's not galloping on the ice. He's just so smooth, has the offensive instincts. I love his game. And I think you get him he's going to be your number one defenseman of the future. And I honestly think the Islanders getting the number one overall pick helps the logic of keeping Dobson because you could say, oh, we have this young stud that's on an ELC. It's not so bad to give Dobson 8 because you have this other kid making not so much and we have this guy in house. So I think it helps the Dobson debate, but Misa's great too. Listen, I wouldn't be crying if they chose Misa, but I think just from a value perspective, Schaefer should be the pick. And most people that we've had the fortune of speaking to also say Schaefer number one when push comes to shove, unless they have this whole romantic thing going on with James Hagens about him being from Long Island. It's always been Schaefer. Even the people I've spoken to that do say Hagens say, oh, well, it's Long Island and he'll stay and this and that. Talent wise, I think Schaefer has to be the pick.
Yeah, they beat Hagens away pretty quick. Everybody's beat Hagens down
I
fast.
know, I
Man.
know.
I mean, they just, you know, that.
And listen, I hope Higgins goes back to college and he puts up numbers and everyone maybe looks a little bit foolish because I think regardless of whether or not he is a New York Islander, something that like I've noticed and I'm sure many people have noticed around the league is that Long Island hockey, I don't want to say it's back because it was never here, but Long Island hockey is here. Like there are now established, I
Yeah.
would say very good players in the league, and we're getting to that point where I think these kids realize that lacrosse isn't going to pay the bills, and there's just this huge like influx of hockey players from Long Island where it's becoming a hotbed. And as a former Long Island hockey player, albeit a mediocre one, makes me very happy.
Yeah, and I still love Hagens too. It's just once you get the number one, it's like a value thing, right? Like it would be sort of ridiculous to, if we go back to '09, it would be the equivalent of taking Duchesne number one, if you will. So it's a value thing once you get to the actual draft.
Yeah.
I have one question for you guys before we
Yeah.
get to the bunch of podcast questions that we got from the Discord. So it's more of like big picture. As far as timeline goes, I know the Islanders don't like throwing out that R word. They never want to do a rebuild or a retool, whatever. How long are we giving Darche and company um, to kind of install his plan? Is this a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan to become like super competitive in your guys' minds?
I'll happily start, I guess. This isn't even a Darsh thing. I think whoever they would have hired, I'm sort of giving them a 2-year sort of timeline. I think they've already got a very solid foundation between Barzell, Horvat. If they re-sign Dobson, they've got Sorokin under contract. I am incredibly bullish on Simon Holmstrom next year and moving forward. I think that they've got some not super high-end players, but high players, high-end players. I think they lack a lot of depth, which I think is becoming an easier thing to fill in today's NHL. And I think that this new GM coming in is not left with as dire a prospect situation as we had a year ago. We project Cal Ritchie is going to be in the NHL next year. All right. So give him a year or two to develop. Who knows what happens with Cole Iserman once his season ends, right? Me personally, I think it would be cool if his college season ended and he came up, right? There's going to be a growing period for him as well. What happens with Danny Nelson after his next season at Notre Dame? We just had Gabe Foley on Rocco with Tyler, who was insanely bullish on Quinn Finley and went as far as putting him as number two, I believe, in the Islanders prospect pool over Cole Iserman. What's he gonna do, right? Who is Darsh gonna bring in? That's a young up and coming prospect. What's Schaefer or Misa gonna be? Are they gonna get some more young guys, right? And I think like we glorify this prospect pool, and it's very okay to be excited about them. I think a lot of people overestimate the immediate contributions of those prospects. And so, given the established talent that the Islanders already have, with a 2-year growing period for this now very exciting prospect pool and the number one overall pick, I think the Islanders are going to be a good, if not very good team. I don't think they're going to out of the gates, I'm saying. I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to a championship caliber team, but I think that that is possible in 2 years. That is where I would stand, and so I would give him that 2-year sort of grace period to figure it out.
I'm usually a 3-year guy. I feel like if somebody's getting hired and they're getting a start, and this goes not just in hockey, but really with anything, could be an NFL GM, could be anything, could be anything. I feel like 3 years, you got 3 years to show me something. Show me that the organization is in a better place than the day that you walked in the door. So now you could say that timeline might be accelerated a little bit because you're talking about a team that has some pieces in place, that has a number one overall pick in the draft. So maybe two, it could be, but I'm gonna stick with 3. If 3 years from today, the Islanders are in a worse place or not in a better place, they might be in the same. It's not good enough for me. You gotta be able to do better, especially with some of the assets that they have coming down the pike and some of the prospects that for the first time you can be excited about. And prospects, people love prospects. They love prospects. There are no such things as can't miss because plenty of them miss. More miss than hit. So we all love the Richies and the Yzermans. It sounds great now, but you never know till they actually get on that NHL ice if they can play or not.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mike here, 3. And similar to what Ethan says, it doesn't have to be 3 years and we're ready to win a championship. You just want to see the progress. You want to see us be in a better place. You want to see a stronger prospect pool, a better minor league system, a better, I think a lot of people would agree with this. Wouldn't you just like to watch an exciting team? I mean, I love this team and I watch every game. Midway through last season, I was incredibly bored. It was hard to watch hockey because it's the same shit we've been seeing for how many years with the same players and whatever else. Just bring a strong brand of hockey here, and I think it will work. You do not have to win right away. You just need to have us on an upward trajectory. and you sort of want to see that chart just going up, even if it's slowly, as long as it's going up, he'll be fine. You just can't go backwards.
All right. I mean, the only thing I would not I obviously don't disagree. This is all opinion. It's just like you have to. My like main thing is keeping in mind the prime of Barzell and Horvat, and I don't want to
Right.
say that that accelerates things, but as we've discussed ad nauseum, Rocco, the Dallas Stars model of you want that infusion of youth to happen while these guys are still sort of in that prime. With Horvat, it might be a little bit tougher because he's older, but like by the time Barzell's 29, 30, like yeah, I would like this team to be of championship caliber. And I don't think it's far-fetched. I really don't. Like I think with the pieces there, like I think that my 2-year timeline is very fair. And I think and you guys may accelerate that timeline too if they were to land I don't know, Mitch Marner. Who knows?
Oh,
But
that changes.
of
That's the
course,
thing.
right.
Those are things that change. If
Exactly.
you end up signing Mitch Marner and you end up, getting this Schaefer and he's going to play in October and you're going to get you know, maybe it is 2 years then. At that point, maybe you do trade Dobson and suddenly you have all these other pieces that you're around with. So I think that it does move things up depending on how this offseason goes.
Agree.
All right, should we get to Discord Q&A?
Yeah. We got a couple of questions, some that we already touched.
Join the Discord. By the way, if you're still listening to this, hop on Patreon, sign up. It's only $5 to get into the Discord. 10 if you want the Discord and you want the extra content, multiple extra episodes per month. 25 if you want the Discord with the insider tier. Sign up. I mean, it feels like almost like we've got over 130 or so people signed up for the Patreon and it's been less than a month. The Discord has been absolutely insane, by the way. Um, Carver, for context, like during the Shanahan debacle, bro, we had people listening to Jimmy Murphy and Pierre Maguire's podcast live, asking questions. Like, how insane do you have to be to listen to Pierre Maguire drunk off 5 margaritas, sunburnt in the Florida sun? I mean, people like making memes left and right, like looking up details of Shanahan's family, people writing essays about like assistant GMs people could bring, like insane. Like, if you are as feverish of an Islanders fan as we are. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Hop in. All right, Greeny, to the Q&A now that I'm done with my shameless plug.
All right. So first we'll start with Ian. This is a very short question. He just wants to know what's your guys' thoughts on Brock Besser potentially as a free agent target.
No
Pass.
thanks.
Nah,
I think what Rocco, what I feel like you
he's
had some
slow.
contract. No,
He.
I know, but contract projections.
Oh, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I think it's like 7, 8 mil. He's going to get
Yeah.
like a 6 year
No.
deal. It's just we don't need if we're going to throw a bag at somebody, it's got to be someone like extremely dynamic, not like what we wanted Oliver Wallstrom to turn into. We need like a really dynamic top of the line player if we're going to throw money at someone. And I like Besser as a player. I just don't think he's a good fit for this team.
And sidebar just on the free agent stuff. Like I want them to swing big. Like I want them to swing
Yeah.
at a Marner. I want them to swing at an Ehlers. But if they miss, I'd rather them just stay put
Yeah.
and be
And
safe.
to the timeline we went over before, if they miss on these big free agents and this upcoming year isn't that good, don't lose faith because it might just be part of the plan, right?
No, yeah, you got
Like
two
if this
pick you got two
upcoming
picks
season
in
isn't great
26.
and we get another high pick and can really build it, it might not be the worst thing long term. So don't lose faith quickly. Give it a little time, no matter what.
Yep, agreed.
These are Islander fans you're talking about.
I know.
Just so you know.
We've been waiting our whole
No.
lives. I could wait a couple more. I want a wide open
All
window.
right. Okay.
All right. Next, we'll go to our guy K-Mac. This is actually kind of what Ethan
Love
was
K-Mac.
alluding. Yeah, K-Mac
The
is
man.
a legend.
The man.
He actually lives in the Discord. So K-Mac wants to know, does the Darche hiring signal to anyone a change in organizational direction or philosophy? Like what you just said, Ethan, maybe not taking huge swings with future assets this summer, but a more measured long-term approach.
I think it's a great question. I mean, there's going to be a philosophical difference, 100%. The question we don't know the answer to is what that's going to be because we have struggled to pinpoint the strengths of Darche in Tampa Bay. I mean, we are already seeing a difference in the social media. I think team culture is going to be much different. I would point to one thing that I'm excited for is, like Rocco alluded to earlier, is less of a country club mentality where some of these longer tenured guys who we were less confident the Islanders would move off of had Lou returned may actually be on, I don't want to call it the chopping block because that sounds dark, but could be on their way out.
I'll say it on the chopping block. Get him out.
Chopping
Chopped.
block.
Get him out. I clean all these guys out. Clean them out. I don't need them.
New
Anyone
culture.
on the wrong side of 30 could move out. That's how they should look at it.
Right.
Name your, we've been saying it ad nauseum. Name your three, whatever it is, three, four, five guys, name them and tell every other GM in the league we will listen on anyone else.
Right.
All right. Next we'll go to Z Schwartz. I think it's Zach. I
It
don't
is
know.
Zach.
It is
Yeah.
Zach. All right, Zach. Zach Schwartz, 19. So it's kind of a longer question. I really like the end of the question though, because it's about Lou. So he just wants to know if Lou is going to be kept on in some secret role outside of
Ah.
hockey ops.
God, I hope not.
And I'm scared.
No.
I'm
No.
scared.
No.
I'll say this. Outside of hockey ops, doesn't matter. If Scott Malkin wants his weird 83-year-old safety blanket to advise him on the business side of the NHL, all right, that's fine. But he's already been removed from the team directory. They're not going to release a statement saying that they're letting his deal expire. He will have no say in the hockey operations of the New York Islanders moving forward, whether it be through him or his shitty son.
Agreed. No worries about Lou.
I hope so. Just get him out. Enough of these guys. Get him out. I hope you're right, Ethan. I'm
Same
worried
here.
though.
He's out.
I'm worried, but I hope
Yeah.
that I hope he's gone.
All right. So we'll do two more. This one is from Dom. So he says, who's going to be the first pair right defenseman if the haters win and Dobson is traded?
The haters win.
For context, I called Dom Noah Domson.
And he's also dated Dom. He's a huge analytics guy. So that's
Yes.
part of why he loves Dobson.
Yes, the
Charts and
analytics
graphs.
do favor Noah Dobson.
Charts and graphs. Gotta have
Rocco.
charts and graphs.
Rocco, you want to start?
Who's number one right pair defenseman? Trying to think. Well, God forbid it was Pollock, right? Or Mayfield. Oy. You know what?
I mean,
They would. I think they would get someone
mean,
they weren't expecting. Like
Would
it
they go
be
after
some
like a
sort of-
Seth Jones?
no, Seth Jones, no. Rocco, you know the answer, you just don't want to say it.
Dance on him.
Dance on him.
Oh,
Tony
God.
D, number one
Tony
right-handed
D.
defenseman.
That's who it is. I
Yeah,
mean,
it might be Tony D. I think Tony D is
it-
going to stay. I really do.
I mean, you don't want it to be Pollock, and
Can't be Scotty.
no, but like if we're talking realistic options, you're talking Ryan Pollock or Tony D'Angelo or noted elite winger, no, noted elite center, Adam Boquist.
Yeah, I'll guess Tony D.
Yeah, I would say Tony D as well.
This Darche wants to really pull a magic trick. He can find somebody to take Pulak and Pellick's contracts. That would really be him.
100%. Pellick
Yeah.
easier than Pollock, but if he could get rid of Pollock,
He'll
oh
start.
my
He'll
God,
start to get some fans quick if he got rid of those.
Oh, yeah.
bro, I'd give him an extension
and
already.
remember, we love what those guys did back in the day. There's nothing against those guys. They were very good.
What
during
have you
those
done for me
years.
lately?
Problem is, they can't play anymore.
You
Nope.
could appreciate
Can't
while
play
also
anymore.
seeing the
So-
truth.
Yes,
Appreciate the past, see the current truth.
Chopped.
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 All right. Last one. I figured we'd end with a fun one. So this is from Santacules. I have no idea who what his actual name is, but Santacules. He says on a not so serious question, but hopefully a fun one. What's a previously restricted or disallowed thing under Lou that you're excited to hopefully see back under Darche?
Beards.
Yeah, the easy answer is the beards. You know who's probably the most pissed off right now?
Who?
Given everything that he's gone through. The other Tony D, Anthony Duclair, who cut off his dreads and now Lou's gone.
Well, I'll give you something for us, just not even on our podcast, but just in general. Hearing players' personalities. Lou didn't let them go on podcast. You didn't see anything inside the locker room. All the interaction stuff. That's what I'm excited about. Like, I want to hear Bo Horvat on a pod. I want to hear.
They were the absolute worst fan friendly media. With him, he didn't let them do anything. I mean, I believe me, when a few years ago when I was still doing the show, there was a lot of things that people almost had, lined up for me to do, and they were all nixed, with doing stuff with players or doing stuff with and they were all nixed because Lou wouldn't allow any of it. I mean, even when I was still at Fan, we would try to, have some guys come on, and it was a problem. Everything was a problem. And I think that you need to be able to, your fans want to hear from their favorite players on some formats like that, whether it's the bigger ones or even the smaller ones. They want to be able to hear their players talk, and I hope the other thing with this guy, I hope that Darche is a guy that, does talk to the media a lot and does do, I think that that's something that this fan base needs after what Lou has done for the last few years.
And we know the guy loves to promote himself. I'm sure that's not going to be an issue.
Right. And but I really think the people that will be the happiest out of this all, just circling back to how this question started, is probably Butch and Brendan, because they're allowed back on the plane.
That's the answer.
Great call.
That's the answer.
We don't have to see them tweeting out, sitting at the Dunkin' Donuts in the Raleigh airport, at 6:30 in the morning, trying to get back to Long Island for a back-to-back. That's so now not having to hear Shannon go over here, and you don't have to see all these people doing their airport stuff anymore.
Brendan, the Bojangles and Raleigh is pretty good, eh?
Yeah, so it's those guys getting back on the team plane. And now and unfortunately for Kinger, now he's out. He would have been back on the team. He's been going. I know he hasn't been traveling the last couple of years, but I'm sure he was part of the beginning, not being on the team plane anymore, and now he's out, which is also gutless. But it is what it is.
Beyond gutless.
I just want them to show replays at UBS again. Is that too much to ask?
Show the replays at UBS? I'm not paying enough attention. They don't show replays at the game.
It's like scan a QR code, I think, right?
Yeah, they put something on the video board to do it on your own phone. And I know when someone
a QR code at the game.
Yes, and I know especially when there are challenges, they don't show anything.
That might be a universal thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
I thought the NHL, you might be right. That might be a universal thing.
That might be to protect the refs.
I know in baseball, they have to show it on the board. Like when they review a play at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field or anywhere, it has to be. It's part of the rule. But maybe in hockey, they don't. Maybe in hockey, they're not allowed to show it, any reviews.
Well, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Right, well, that takes care of all the questions. Thank you, everybody, for submitting them.
Amazing. Mike, thank you so much. It's late on a Friday. I'm actually very, very happy that you joined us this late and for this long. We appreciate it.
This is, as I was saying, this is the only time I can do it. is this late at night, and it actually worked out better that it was on a Friday, because if it was a weeknight and it was like me having to get up and get the kids to school in the morning at 7 a.m.
Right.
I don't know if I would have made it this long, but
That's
because
very
it's
fair.
a Friday night. And when you get to my age and you got an 8 and a 4-year-old, Friday nights aren't what they used to be.
No, dude. Believe me, Rocco and I are getting there with our little ones.
Yes.
It's a look into our future.
Anytime, guys.
All right,
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Before we go, Mike, plug your stuff one more time. Where can people find you?
Yeah, Sports Grid, of course. I'm with Scott Farrell Coast to Coast, weekdays 3 to 6. That's also on Sirius XM 159, and then I'm on at night 8 to 10 East as well, Carver and Lisi. So twice a day I'm on Sports Grid, so you can go check me out there. Some hockey talk too, more hockey talk than most on my show. So
there you go. And at Carver High _ on Twitter.
Yeah. A lot of home run bets on there. You want to bet some home runs, you'll find plenty of those on my Twitter feed.
Ring the bell.
Greeny, take notes. You could use them.
Oh, I could definitely use them.
All right, Mike, thank you.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Mike.